for absolute value, the unit review for the test. The first question says, fill in the blanks for the key features of the function graph below. So for your x-intercepts, that's where your graph crosses or touches the x-axis. We can see 1 point right here and 1 point right there. So the first one is 1, 0. And the second one is at 5, 0. The next question says, where's the y-intercept? That's where it crosses or touches the y-axis. So that's going to be 0, -2. For your vertex, that's going to be the highest or the lowest point of the graph, which is going to be right at that red dot. So that's at 3, 4. For our next one, what is the axis of symmetry? So that's the line that has to split this graph in half. And remember, it's an equation. It's x equals. If you look across the x-axis at +3, so that is your axis of symmetry. For the domain, we have 2 of these lines here with arrowheads. So to the left goes the negative infinity, to the right goes the positive infinity. For the range, it's from the bottom to the top, so the bottom goes to negative infinity. And the top stops at that red dot, which is y value is 4. And it's a closed circle, so we put a bracket on it. All right, number 2, answer the questions below regarding the following function. So -4, x + 1 - 2. The vertex. So the vertex comes from insider's lie and that value k right there. So insider's lie is -1. And k is -2, because it is what it is. So that's H. Sorry, I think we called it C and D. And for the axis of symmetry, x equals c. So over here, this one's a little bit different. You take x + 1, you set it equal to 0, subtract the 1, x equals -1. We've talked about this with the insider's lie. Make sure you do that. Letter C, complete the sentence below by circling in bold the correct transformations applied to the parent function. So f of x equals the absolute value of x to create the graph of h of x. All right, so let's see. So the graph of h of x is reflected or not reflected over the x or y axis, and is vertically compressed or stretched by a factor of 4 or 1 or 2. And the graph of g of x is shifted. Okay, so the negative right here, that means it's reflected over the x-axis, and this 4 right here is greater than 1. That's a vertical stretch by a factor of 4. The graph of g of x, I think they meant to say h of x, is also shifted right here. This is insider's lie right here. So it's shifted 1 unit, and insider's lie, so it actually goes to the left. And then it goes shifted, this k value, or sorry, this d value right here is shifted down 2 units. All right, here's the next one. Answer the following questions below regarding the following function, h of x. So the vertex, again, CD. So here, C and D. Remember, this is A. So C for the vertex, insider's lie, so that's a 3. And D is 7, so 3, 7. Axis symmetry, C is 3, so x equals 3. Complete the sentence below by circling in bold the correct answer, the correct transformations applied to the parent function. F of x equals the absolute value of x. Create the graph of h of x. Okay, so again, we're doing the same thing here. So we're looking at h of x. The graph, there is no negative for a. So there's no negative here. So it's not reflected over the x or y axis, and it doesn't matter. I'm not going to pick one of those because it's not reflected. It is right here. This a is 1/4. That is less than 1. So that is compressed by a factor of the number of 1/4. The graph of g of x is also shifted. So this is c. It's going to go right or left. So that's inside of the line 3, which is positive, so it goes to the right. Then our d is right here, and it goes 7 units up. All right, answer the following questions below regarding the following function. So again, here's a. There's no c and there is no d. So if there's no c, that means the value for c is 0, and there's no d, so that means the value for d is 0. So your vertex is at 0, 0. Complete the sentence below by circling in bold the correct transformations. Okay, so again, so the graph is not reflected because there is no negative over the x or y axis, and it's vertically a is 1/3, so that is compressed by a factor of 1/3. All right, number 5, write the equation of an absolute value function that has been vertically reflected and stretched by a factor of 2. So remember the equation: y equals plus or minus a absolute value of x plus or minus c absolute value plus or minus d. Okay, so here I'm just going to label things. So it's been vertically reflected, that's a, and stretched by a factor of 2, that's also a. So I can say y equals the reflected across the x-axis, or vertically reflected is negative, and your a value is 2. Absolute bar, x, it's shifted right 9 units. So right insider's lie becomes minus 9 inside here. And then down 3, that's going to be d, so that's going to be minus 3. All right, and for the next one, we're going to do the exact same thing. Remember the equations right there: y equals plus or minus a, absolute value bar, x plus or minus c, absolute value bar plus or minus d. So write the equation of an absolute value function that has been vertically compressed. So again, that's a, by a factor of 1/5, shifted left 3 units, that's c, and down 7 units, that's d. So y equals a is compressed by 1/3, absolute value bar x shifted left 3 units, so insider's lie, that becomes a positive 3, and then down 7 is minus 7. All right, Major League Baseball players may choose a bat that is 33 inches long plus or minus 1.75 inches. So for this one, the formula was, let's see what we recall it, the absolute value of x minus the average, or the distance equals the average. So it is x minus the average equals the distance. So for Major League Baseball players may choose a bat that is 33 inches long plus or minus 1.75 inches. So the equation is the absolute value of x minus, so the average is 33 inches, equals the distance, which is plus or minus 1.75. All right, now there are 2 ways to solve this. The first way we talked about, we did this in class, was we drew a number line. So here, x minus 33 is just 33 inches. Then you can add 1.75, which would give me 34.75, or we could subtract 1.75, which would give us, let me see, 31.25. Remember, the smaller one is the minimum, so 31.25 inches, and the maximum is the bigger number, 34.75 inches. And we talked about the second way to do this is like take x minus 33 equal it to negative 1.75. And we would solve it, so we'd add the 33. X equals 31.25. which is what we got for the minimum. Then you would set x minus 33 equal to the positive 1.75. And when you add 33, you get 34.75, which is what we have. All right, for the next one, this is solve the following equations, show all of your work, and box your answers. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is the absolute bar is isolated. And it's not because there's a minus 5, so we're going to add 5 to both sides. So we get the absolute value of 2x equals 6. The absolute bars are isolated, and the number is positive. So we're going to set up our two equations. So our first one is drop the bars, 2x equals, we make the first number negative 6. The second time we write it the way it is, 2x is equal to 6. Divide by 2 on both sides, x equals negative 3. Divide by 2 on both sides, x equals positive 3. Alright, so there are your two solutions. Let's move on to the next one. So it says we have to solve it again. So first we're going to start by, it's not isolated. We can see there's numbers on the outside. We always start with addition or subtraction first. We're going to add 6 to both sides. So that's negative 3, absolute value of x plus 4 equals negative 12 plus 6 is negative 6. Now we're going to divide by negative 3. And that's going to give us the absolute value of x plus 4 is equal to 2. Since this is now isolated and the number is positive, we're going to set up our two equations. So x plus 4 equals a negative number. X plus 4 equals the positive number. So minus 4, x equals negative 6. And for the other one, subtract 4, x equals negative 2. And both answers are good. Alright, for this last one here, I'm going to start by subtracting 2. So negative absolute value of x minus 1 equals negative 7. We're going to divide by the negative sign. So we get the absolute value of x minus 1 is equal to 7. Again, here we can say isolated. So your two equations, x minus 1 is equal to negative 7. X minus 1 is equal to positive 7. So add the 1 here. X equals negative 6. Add the 1 here. X is equal to 8. Alright, and the last, we're doing our inequalities. There's 2 of them left. So it says solve the following inequalities, show all your work, and box your answers. So here we can see it's not isolated. We have the plus 5, so we're going to subtract the 5 to both sides. So we get the absolute value of x is greater than or equal to 2. It's isolated and isolated. So this right here is a split. So we're going to say drop the bars, x is less than or equal to negative 2, or x is greater or equal to the positive 2. So here, since there's nothing to isolate the x, this would be our final answer. And for the second part, number 9, we have this absolute bars here, so we can subtract 2 from both sides. So don't think about flipping the sign because we didn't multiply or divide by a negative number. So the absolute value of 2x minus 3 is less than 3. Alright, the number is positive, and the absolute bars are isolated, so this is going to be a between statement. So we start with the letter C, and C is right here, so it's 3 becomes negative 3, is less than the expression without the bars, and is less than the positive, which is 3. So negative 3 less than 2x minus 3 less than 3. So smaller number less than the expression, less than the bigger number. So to isolate the inside, we're going to start by adding 3 to the left, right, and middle. So we get 0 is less than 2x, which is less than 6. Then we're going to divide everything by 2, because we're trying to isolate the x in the middle. So then your answer does become 0 divided by 2 is 0, less than x, less than 3. And that concludes the review.